And speed.
Hi, my name is Frederick Newer. I'm the interviewer with the home of Stanley Silverstein, the survivor we'll be interviewing today. We're in Coconut Creek, Florida, and we're conducting the interview in English, and this is tape number 1.
Speed.
This is tape number 1. Stanley, why don't you tell us about your life growing up in Zdונסקה-וולה, Poland?
Well, I was born in Zdונסקה-וולה 1925 or 1927. And my youth, my parents, they were middle-class people. We had a beautiful home. I had brothers and sisters, and we lived together. It was like a real Jewish ultra-Orthodox home. I grew up in Poland in a very religious home, and I went to school. When I started, after 3 years old, I went to, it's like a cheder, where they learned Torah with dinim and everything. After the sixth year, my parents took me into a yeshiva, like what you learn over there, Torah, plus the Polish, public school, equivalent to public school. We went over there to school from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and 6 hours was devoted to Hebrew, to the Gemara and the Torah, and 6 hours were devoted to public school Polish. And it was very harmonious life by us. I had 3 sisters and 3 brothers. I was the 4th brother. My oldest sister died before the war in Poland in 1938, and the rest of us, and one brother went in 1933 or 34, he went to Palestine, he got married and he went to Palestine, and at home we were 2 sisters and 1 brother, including me. My mother, she should rest in peace, was a terrific woman. Everybody said that she was smart. She had her own business. She had a store, like here, a houseware store, what people come in and bought and things. And also in Poland, in a little town like us, if somebody got married or want to make an affair, they couldn't have the dishes. They had to learn to go to my mother's store and to learn the dishes for a day or 2, as much they needed. And there was dishes from kosher, it was dairy or was meat. So, and my father also was in business with his brother-in-law, my mother's sister's husband, and they had like a sheet metal work, roofing, and they employed about between 12 and 15 people in the season. Because winter was different, but in the summer they employed. So in other words, we also had a nice, comfortable, beautiful home, and we owned an apartment house, a 3-story big apartment house, and my father, my brother, and my sister went to school, as far as I remember. I went to school, and we had a very beautiful life. So far, through the war, but I remember the youth, but I remember was very like a real Jewish traditional home. We had everything what we need. We had our love from the parents, and from one brother to another brother and a sister, especially me. I was the youngest one. Pampered me more than anything else. During the time before the war, every week, my father went to the synagogue every morning, and I went to Cheder, or I went to the yeshiva Yesod Torah. And Friday night, we went all to shul together, to the shtibel together, and it was not one Friday night that my father wouldn't bring home like a oreach. How do you say oreach? Like somebody that came to Zadoנסקה-וולה. He couldn't go home because it was Shabbos, or there was a poor guy. He didn't have nothing. Every Friday night, my father brought home somebody for dinner, in the afternoon, and the next morning for everything. The thing in Zadoנסקה-וולה was everything primitive. He didn't have no, like to say, like here in the United States. Everything was primitive, and but we had a nice, beautiful home. The children, my brother went to high school in Poland, but it was a very rarity to go that they should let a Jewish boy go to high school. A very rarity, and it was a privilege to be there. To have something like this. And I had the other brother in 1933 went to Israel through a certificate for that we had to show that we had 1,000 sterling pounds, was in those days, to go to Israel. Then he got a certificate, he got married, and he went to Israel, or 1933 or 1934, I don't remember exactly. And the oldest brother got married, and he moved to Piotrków, Trybunalski, to another city also not far from us. And the sister that died in 1938, she got married, I don't remember because she got engaged when I was born, something like this. And she moved to Lodz. In 1938, she passed away. And my parents were very supportive, and they loved us very much. What else can I tell you? The family, the family life in our home was very supportive one to another. And they were very generous to the Jewish community, the Jewish authorities, and what else can I tell you? I don't remember too much about it, but I knew what was happening in Poland as a child when I went to school. We always had to go home in groups because the Poles, they were not very kind to Jews. They were, most of the Poles, they were anti-Semites. They were hunting wherever they can find a Jewish boy and beat them up. Very much. And also when it was like Polish holidays, religious holidays, a Jew couldn't go out in the street those days because they would beat him up there or kill him, whatever. And the city in Poland where I lived, in Zadunska-Vולה, was approximately between 11 and 13,000 Jews living. It was a nice Jewish community, and we had a nice life till the war came on. And we helped each other, and that's about all.
Why don't you tell us, Stanley, about the period, explain about growing up, of becoming a ghetto when Zadunska-Vולה was made into a ghetto, and what things you went through.
In 1939, the German came to Zadunska-Vולה. It was February. This was in September the 3rd. September the 3rd was Zadunska-Vולה was bombarded, bombs on the houses, you know, with the airplanes, and we ran away by foot till Lodz. It was approximately 40-50 kilometers. We didn't know what to do because we heard what the atrocities what they did. Because my family they lived in Kalisz, not far from us. They came to Zadunska-Vולה. They told us how the German behaved, how the German toward the Jews, and also, it's not surprisingly that even Poland was now she was occupied, and the Poles collaborated with the Germans on account of the Jews. This was it. So in 1939, when the war broke out, the third day from the war we ran, we went by foot or with horses, and we went to Lodz through towns and towns. When we came to Lodz, they didn't touch the city. The city was intact, full intact. They didn't bombard because Lodz was a beautiful city. A big city was, I think, was 600,000 occupants, and was approximately a quarter from this by Jewish people. So when everything they occupied all Poland, even after the Warsaw Ghetto, after the Warsaw, then we went back to Zadunska-Vולה. In Zadunska-Vולה, the store was closed already. We couldn't, they confiscated the store. We couldn't take nothing out. But my father, with my uncle, his brother-in-law, they still had the business, but they didn't had no help, and they had to work for themselves. Like my father and the uncle, including my uncle had a son, And my father, my brother, Zעליג, helped also out those times. Anyway, we got along very, so far not too bad according to other people, because my father worked and this happened till December or January, February, or December 39 or January, February 40, when it came out that all the Jews should go to the ghetto. They took a few streets, and they formed a ghetto, and we also had to leave everything. We couldn't take nothing, almost nothing. We took whatever we can take. No furniture, no nothing. And we moved to the ghetto, and in 1940, in February, they closed the ghetto up. Nobody could have gone in and out in the ghetto anymore. So sometimes people tried to smuggle in some stuff that went out in the nighttime, and the Poles, they were waiting for them. And they called the Germans. They couldn't even say Jew, no, they said Parshiwy Żyd. This is in German, this is in Polish, you daddy Jew. And they got from this a quarter kilo sugar. This is a half a pound of sugar, what this did. And every Pole did it in Zadunska-Vולה. The life in the beginning in Zadunska-Vולה, in the ghetto, we used to live in a beautiful, in our house, a beautiful house. I think it was 4 or 5 rooms, and we all had to live in 2 small rooms, but we got, from the authorities. We moved here, but we couldn't help anything else. And in the ghetto, my father used to work also in the beginning. He had a pass to go out to work for the Germans if they need sheet metal or something. And my brother went with them. I was too young to work. The food was scarce, but if I would say till the end, but when I went through the Lodge Ghetto, and this was a paradise according, Zadunska-Vולה Ghetto was a paradise according, but the future, but I went through the future times. So in the ghetto, I didn't work till I think it was end of 41 or 42, they took, when they need workers, they took away a lot of people in the ghetto, they sent them to prison, like selection, took away all the young people. And came a time when I had to go to work for the German, but I was a cutter. They produced over there for the Russian front, for the soldiers, the German soldiers for the Russian front, they produced like 4 jackets. This was from how do you call it, rabbit, wild rabbit. In Poland was big wild rabbit. And they gave us a knife, a special knife to cut that for, with forms. And according to the forms, you had to cut them. God forbid if you did something wrong, you got beaten. And the German was Jewish, the policemen were looking at it. But was also German assessment was there also, 2 or 3. And if somebody did something wrong, then the Jewish person had to go to the German officer and tell him what happened here. And he beat the hell out of him sometimes. And this was only young people, like 12, 13, 14 years old. Was working there. The other people, most of the people didn't work in Zadunska-Vולה, in the ghetto. The only thing what they did, every few weeks they make a selection, they send away to Poznan in a ghetto, Poznan in a concentration camp to work, and the life in the ghetto in general was very, very bad, according to the way everybody used to be. Especially when you were, you couldn't go no place, you couldn't do nothing. And they organized like lessons for the children, like to learn Torah or something else. And they were afraid because we were not allowed to do that. Especially the holidays like Passover or something else, we had to do everything in secret. I give you for instance, you got every week the portion. You got a loaf of bread a week. Kilo of bread, whatever it was. For Passover, they made. You can take the loaf of bread, or you can take 2 pounds of flour, it was dark flour, to make matzahs. This was unofficially, and to make matzahs. And if, God forbid, if the people came in, the most important thing I have to tell you, every now and then came in some assessment, the nighttime, like 11, 12 at night, and they went into an apartment, and they beat up the people, and they should give them the gold or the silver, whatever they have. If not, they beat the hell out. This was very, very often. Matter of fact, it was once by us, and my father, he rest in peace, recognized one, but he was working for him. He said, "Mr. Damrov," then he said in German, but I will tell it in English, I didn't know that this is you, and he went out. He was a Obersturmführer, Damrov. Yeah, I remember this name of those in details you cannot forget something like this. And we lived in the ghetto till 1942 was in August. They liquidated the ghetto. August 42. The day when they started to liquidate the ghetto, first of all, it was such a stormy weather. The skies were so gray, like you see something happen. The sky was like. How can I explain this? Like stormy, hills came down, and it was thundering. It was lightning and raining. And my mother, she rest in peace, she said, the world is against us. Even the skies are against us. And they took us from the ghetto. They took all the people to the Jewish cemetery. Over there we were approximately 3 days and 3 nights with nothing, no food, no. It was all those 3 days was so raining. And normally in Poland in August is beautiful and nice. It was so raining, so stormy. And during those 3 days, they made a selection. Who goes to the ghetto, to Lodge ghetto, Lishmantat ghetto, and who goes to the death camp. It was not a death camp, it was open graves after the war. We knew what happening. Wasn't the city wasn't Helmko in the forest. But 80% from the people from Zadunska-Vולה went over there to Helmko to they shot him or they put him in big trucks and they killed him with the gas, the carbon monoxide. You know, they took from the exhaust. They had special exhaust that goes in the truck. And the way they killed him, later on they threw him in big mass graves. And far as I know, in Helmko, not only from Zadunska-Vולה, but the radius from 50 kilometers, the Jews were burned over there, killed and buried over there. Anyway, after 3 days, they sent us. It was a small group, not a small. Was I don't know how many people was, but was one freight train. What they took us to the railroad station, and in those days it was very hot, and they put us up in the trains like chicken, more than 100 people in a wagon, and the ride took us. Normally takes an hour to go, even less than an hour from Zadunska-Vולה to Lodz. It took us 2 days, 2 nights and 3 days. Took us to go to Lodz, and they put in steam in the wagons in the summertime, and in our wagon, my father and my brother got suffocated. And when we arrived to Lodz, we had to take our own the people what were dead, and to take him to the burial place. And we saw, me and my 2 sisters, we came together. We saw that my brother and my father suffocated. The whole face was bloody, like black bloody. You never saw something like this in your life. Anyway, after 3 days, we buried them in the cemetery in Lodz. And in Lodz, Ghetto, and when we buried them, I said to myself, I will never cry again in my life. All those tears were gone already, and I really didn't cry. And the Lodz Ghetto was much worse than the Zadunska-Vולה Ghetto. Much worse. First of all, much less food, and the living quarters was like we lived in an attic in one room. My sister and my 2 sisters and myself, and I also had a cousin living with us. The first year or so, or maybe a half a year together. No, and that's was very uncomfortable.
Now, Stanley, you wanted to take us back to a few thoughts you had before the Lodz Ghetto.
Before the Zadunska-Vולה Ghetto, sure. I would like to make a few thoughts. In Zadunska-Vולה before the war, I was very pampered. I was, like a child born when the parents were not so young, and everybody tried to. I could get, like you say, the moon, everything. So I was very naive. And when the whole thing started, 1936, 37, I tried I understood a little bit. Sometimes I asked the question to my father, to my mother, or to anybody else, are we different than they are? Why? I couldn't understand why a Jew has to be prosecuted for no reason at all. And just despite. So anyway, this I wanted to say, and I couldn't understand even till today why this happening. And in the Zadoנסקה-וולה ghetto, when we were about cruelty, to say to people what the German did, they did in Purim in 1941 in Purim. They took 10 prominent Jewish people, like lawyers, a doctor, a dentist, very prominent people, educated prominent people, and they they built a gallows, 10 people, 10 like this, and in Purim they hanged them. They took all the Jewish people from the ghetto, even the smallest children, to see the execution. And the most important thing, the Poles gathered around was not far from the walls. Was like chicken wire walls there. And when this happened, they applauded. The Poles applauded. And then the second hanging was in Shavuot, Erev Shavuot, also in 42. They also took 10 people, and they hanged the same way what I described it before. They took out all the ghetto, the Jews from the ghetto, in a big place, in a big field, and everybody had to see how they hanged. And also, they didn't make the hanging. The Jewish police had to make the hanging. And it was so hard. Those two episodes could never go out of my mind, to see how something like this can happen. And more of it is that the Poles applauded. This is unbelievable. They were a nation. They were conquered by enemies. They suffered. They also suffered. They didn't have anything what normally have, and they collaborated so much that I can say, in a way, I hated the Poles more than I hate the Germans. So now we go back to the ghetto in Litzmannstadt Lodge when we came out. I got a job. Not I got a job. They sent me to work in the field to prepare, let's see, for the winter, that the potatoes or the kohlrabi, all those things shouldn't get spoiled, frozen. We made kopje. How do you say? We put on for miles and not miles, for hundreds of meters. A place where we put the potatoes. Let's see, we put the potatoes was about 100 meter long and about 5 meter, not 5 meters, but about 3 meters wide, and they were like we made them like a pyramid, and we covered them with straw. And later on, we put on dirt on top, that they shouldn't get frozen during the winter. And we had to unload them, we had to load them, and it was very hard work. We worked we went to work around 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning we went to work. We worked sometimes, if, let's see, if our kitchen needed potatoes, we had to stay till 9, 10 o'clock at night to unload or load a wagon. My two sisters in ghetto, as I said, we lived in a very one-room attic apartment. And it was box. How do you, the real Polish box, how do you call those box? Wanzen, you know, it's horrible. You couldn't sleep, you couldn't do nothing about it. In the winter time, it was cold, no heat, no heat, no food. The Polish ghetto, to describe, was so awful. Just to go to work, and you pass every morning, you see almost on every entrance from an apartment house or from wherever was laying dead people. And those dead people came a wagon, a push wagon with two people. They picked them up and just to throw them out, threw them on the wagon and took them to the cemetery. And the life in ghetto, in Lodge ghetto, was so severe, and I can't on food. But the good from the ghetto was that we were still together, a little family, were living together. I knew after work, I go home, and when my sister cooked some, we had kohlrabi or potatoes a little bit, and we got one loaf of bread every day, every week. So I had to keep my food warm, because I came home every day at 9, 10 o'clock at night mostly. She put the food in a container or whatever it was in bed to keep it warm, because we didn't have a little wood we had, that's all that we had. And the ghetto was so horrible. People were crazy. You saw people like so skinny, so like skeletons. And the next day, you could find them in the street laying dead. It was so, the people were so used to it that they couldn't even pay attention anymore to react. Imagine if you see a dead person and you see them hundreds every day. It's unbelievable how emotional, how cruel people can be to bring other people to a situation like this. It's inconceivable to me, even till today it's inconceivable. How, matter of fact, I would go a little farther. By the end of the war, some people tried to take revenge. They killed him. I couldn't even take a revenge for the. I'm not talking about the Germans, because the Germans left after even before they came, but the Kapos or the Sturmführer, the head of the barracks, they were cruel, more cruel even than the Germans alone. So anyway, in the ghetto, life in the ghetto was very, very bad, very bad. Economically was bad. It was also very bad. Physically and emotionally, very, very bad. And my sister, one sister was very sick. She was, you know, not, I wouldn't say very sick, she was very, very fragile. And I sometimes, when I was working, they took me from Marichin, where I was working. The name was called Plantation, and in Marichin, in Lodge. Then they selected sometimes one guy, they needed a guy, because I was always obeying everything. I was, you know, not to get in trouble, not to do anything. They picked me a few times, and I went to Balutski Rynek. This was the place where everything went through this place. The food came in, the potatoes came, the flour, and over there were working German and Jews, German and the Jewish authority, and was working also over there was working one German civil person, not a soldier or assessment, and he happened to like me. And when I was the first 2 times, and the 3rd time they sent somebody else, then he said, no, I want the same guy what was working the first 2 times. So, and I was working in a special room to, you know, to select things or something what he told me to do. And came so far that every morning, you see, it was sometimes you have good Germans also. Every morning, he brought me a sandwich. In those days, we didn't call it sandwich. In those days, we called it 2 pieces of bread, and inside was bacon, pork or bacon. And this was, I took it home. But after the day is over, because I knew my sister is very sick and she needed more. Imagine temptation. Nobody can imagine if somebody is hungry, real hungry, for weeks, for months, for years, hungry, always hungry, and to have a temptation to have a sandwich like this and not to eat it. I brought it home and I didn't even touch it. This is something what was fact, you know, probably everybody knows, that children took away food, they stole the food from the parents, or parents stole the food from the children, because in those days, what a person goes through he is not even a human being anymore. He is an animal. It's like an animal in the jungle. He thinks just for himself, but not everybody. But 99% think for themselves. And in the ghetto, in the Lodge ghetto, was very hard because it was very little food. My one sister worked in a my sister worked, they making braziers, a brazier factory. This went also for the Germans, everything. The other sister worked also in a straw resort. They made from straw. They did like boots for the Germans to send over to Russia. It shouldn't be called big straw shoes. They made it like they twisted it. And they also worked 9, 10, 11 hours. And always, most of the time, you had to walk. I walked from my place to where I lived to Marichin. It was approximately 2.5 kilometers. I had to go an hour before that I should be 7 o'clock, mostly 7 o'clock by work. But I was, in my opinion, I took everything in stride because I said I cannot make it better and nobody can do anything about it. And believe it or not, any situation where you are, any human being, no matter how bad it is, you like to live. You fight for life. And sometimes I was thinking, wouldn't it be better than to die and to get over with it? Why should I suffer so much? What did I do? I was innocent. Only because my heritage was Jewish, to suffer so much in your life, but I cannot understand. I didn't understand those days. And my sister always told me, you cannot help it, you have to do it. You have to do it. So it's unbelievable, it's inconceivable to went through a thing like this, but the Nazis did to the Jews. It's inconceivable, especially to me. I couldn't understand. I was young, and I was brought up without a worry in the world, and I got everything what I always wanted to have. But just open your mouth, I had it, and all of a sudden you brought in a situation like this. Nobody could understand something like this. If somebody was, well, it's egoistic to say, if somebody was poor, was always fighting for a piece of bread or something, for them, I think was much easier to go through the situation that I went through. And sometimes I think to myself, to be mad on my parents was not their fault, but it was, why didn't they prepare me for a life like this? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is not to understand. Anyway, let's go back to the ghetto from Lodz, the Lodz ghetto. And Lodz ghetto was like this. You died, you didn't have no food, and the people, what more or less there were a little food or something sometimes. To tell you the truth, when I was working by the potatoes, I put in 2 potatoes here in the night time, risked my life. I could have been shot on the spot to bring home a potato more. Or I took a piece of wood when I was waiting till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Nobody was there, and I took a piece of wood to bring home. We should have in the winter a little more heat or to cook anymore. It's beside the point. But what was in the Lodz ghetto? The Lodz ghetto was the round up, let's see, all of a sudden they came to a block, they sealed off the block, the German, and they took so and so many people. They sent them away. They sent them, some of them, they sent to Częstochow, some of them sent back to Posen to build roads. Some of them they sent to Chalmko, just to burn them. The old people, the kids. In other words, it was, how can I say it? It was every time less and less people were in the ghetto. And quite a few people, they were so bad, they went crazy. In the street, they started to yell, they took out everything naked. till the police came, they took them away, and you didn't see them anymore. The Liftmaster police. And also, if you got the food, in normal by us, in our household, my sisters and me, was not the case, but everybody in most of the families, everybody kept his ration for himself. Went that far, went to tell you how bad it was, that a mother, I don't know how my mother would react. I don't think she would react this way, but because I saw it in the Zadunska-Vולה ghetto. But I know for facts that mothers took their ration whole for themselves because she got so little, and people kept everything for themselves. It's to describe animals, simple as that. And in the Lodge ghetto, we were till August 1944. In August 1944, they liquidated the ghetto. And they told me that I will stay after the liquidation from the ghetto to clean up everything, and this will take till January or February. They didn't know that this. So I told them that I have two sisters. If they can stay with me, I will stay. If they cannot stay with me, I go with them. They promised me that my two sisters, they are going to stay with me. The German told me about it, told this. Anyway, like I said, that the cordoned off part of the city, part of the street that took mention at random. You go, everybody there. And one morning to cordon off our place, I used to live in Dvorska 18. This was Corner Franciszkańska, and when I came home, I was a piece of paper that they took care, where they are, where they're taking them to the railroad station. So I went over there. I went with my sisters. And when I came, and we traveled about 3 or 4 days, also in wagons like for horses and cows, and it was also in the summertime, and they put in heat. Imagine the summertime, they gave heat, steam I mean, in the wagons. And after 3 or 4 days, we came on to Birkenau, Auschwitz. This was a day, the first day. It's impossible to describe it, what went on over there. The day when we came to the Birkenau, the unloading. First of all, they went up a few, not German, but it was couples or something. Instead to go up, first of all, everybody took something. First of all, they didn't let us take nothing out from the wagon. They pushed us out. And they made right away men separate and women separate. This was the first thing. When I came, I was by the men, and my sisters were on the other side, and I saw them. And she yelled at me, I need a comb to comb the hair. I had a comb, and I tried to bring it over. Then an SS-man came to me. I still have it here. He gave me with his rifle over the head, and I was thinking, this is it. And they yelled at me, get up, stand, get up. And they wanted to do nothing, I ran away. So this time I saw my sisters the last time till 1946, when I saw only one sister survive. The other sister did not survive. When they're starting when they took us to Birkenau, before they took us to Birkenau, Birkenau was a concentration camp, but you didn't sleep you didn't have no beds or like three floors or 4 floors. You were sleeping on the floor, and that was it. You're sleeping on the floor, and first of all, before we went into the barracks, before we went into Birkenau, by the wall, there was a selection. They took away the older, the weaklings, because everybody was like a a Muslim, like a skeleton. But the able people, they saw they cannot work, then they send us like a selection. They sent to the left and to the right, and those people to the left, they took them away to the crematorium. In the night time, we felt a very smell. Then we didn't know what it is. Then the other people said, this is the people, what they're burning, what they came with this color.
We're interviewing Stanley Silverstein. It's February 6, 1996, and we're in Coconut Creek, Florida, and this is tape number 3. Stanley, you were talking to us about the selection process upon your arrival at Birkenau, Auschwitz.
The selection, first of all, they took away everything from us, and they stripped us naked. And there was a German officer standing in front. We were standing here, two people, a line from 2 people, and he was standing with his boots on a chair, and he had like a stick, and he said, here, 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 here. This was the selection. Could go 5, 6 people back to the bed place. One person went over there. I went with the live people to be. They took us and they beat everybody. Everybody beat, got hit one way or the other. So after midnight, I remember, we came early in the morning. After midnight, we went, they took us to the barracks. This day, we didn't even get a piece of bread to eat, not a soup, no nothing. We didn't eat nothing. We didn't get nothing. Put in, we took a shower, and the shower, we got soap. The name from the soap was Riff. And the explanation, the older, what they told us, they said Riff means rein Jewish fat, pure Jewish fat, you know, like this. The soap was made from Jewish fat, whatever they need in that. And we got everybody got a shirt and a pair of pants. It's not a shirt, it was like a jacket, a shirt jacket. And we got the shoes we kept. They let us keep the shoes. And in Birkenau, I had a episode. It's very worth to describe it very much. It was when I was in the lodge ghetto, my sisters and me bought me a pair of shoes, Bata shoes. This was winter. This was, I don't know how we could do it, but we did it. And a couple, a Hungarian Jew, when we were laying outside, but in the daytime you had to lay outside. You couldn't go in the barrack outside. And I was laying, and he went through and he saw the shoes what I'm wearing. Then he said to me, "Give me the shoes." I said, "Why?" "Because I want the shoes." I said, "I wouldn't give it to you away for nothing in the world." Then he started to fight with me, the Jewish couple. An assessment came by, and he asked, "What is all the commotion?" Then he said, "I am a couple, and I want his shoes, and he doesn't want to give me." Then the assessment said to me, "Or you give him the shoes, or you get 25 lashes." Then I said, "I'd rather take the 25 lashes, because I knew without the shoe I wouldn't survive. Nobody can survive with, you know." They took me in the back from the barracks. They stripped me the shirts with the pants, and I got 25 lashes. After a year, you still can see those lashes. You understand? And I kept the shoes. And thanks to those shoes, I survived. I survived till Guzenswai with those shoes, because Guzenswai was different. We're going to come to this also. Anyway, we were 3 weeks in Birkenau, and in Birkenau was the situation, the living situation, and the SS and the kapos. They were very, very rude, very, very how can I say it? Very, very hostile. They did everything possible for next to nothing to punish everybody, to kill him. If somebody, let's see, got accident or something, or he got over the head with a rifle, cruel, very, very cruel. And if somebody got hit with a rifle and bleeding, they took him away, right away to the crematorium. So, in other words, everybody wanted to lay very, very low. Even you didn't have, for the first few days, you didn't even get bread or something. You get a soup like around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And a whole day you had to lay outside the barrack to do nothing. And in the evening, after 8, 9 o'clock, they let you in. 5 o'clock in the morning, they take you out. This was the ritual for like 10, 11 days. Then they called up, we need, let's see, plumbers. I said, I'm a plumber. And they need 1,500 people, plumbers. Then they took us aside and gave us numbers. It was after 10 or 15 days, it was about 3 weeks where I was in Birkenau. They took us to Auschwitz. Auschwitz is a central from Birkenau. Birkenau is also Auschwitz, but Birkenau was like you didn't stay there. You always the selection from Birkenau they sent to other places. We came to Auschwitz, and Auschwitz was very different than Birkenau. You got your bed, and they assigned you to work. Every morning you went out to work with a Philharmonic Orchestra, a very famous French director. It was an orchestra for over 100 people. And on the entrance to the Auschwitz was written Arbeit macht frei. Arbeit, work makes you free. And every morning we went to work around 6 o'clock in the morning. We came back 7 o'clock at night. We got, by work, we got 12 o'clock or 12:30 we got a soup. Everybody got a soup. And in the evening, when we came back, everybody got, I think they said 250 grams of bread. What kind of bread was very, not dark, was like half straw inside, but it was bread, it was eatable. And the Birkenau was different than Auschwitz was different than Birkenau. Excuse me. Auschwitz was different than Birkenau. They treat you differently than in Birkenau. You were working, and you came home. After you came home, you got your bread with I think it was so-called coffee or black water, and you went to sleep right away. You went to sleep, but they make you every second day. You have to go to make a shower. In Auschwitz, it was clean, but the difference in Auschwitz was so severe, so heartbreaking. Every Friday night, the commander from Auschwitz, his name, I think, was, we called him the butcher from Auschwitz. The name was, I think, was Mengele, or Dr. Mengele. He was a tall fellow, and he put a chair in the middle of the room, and this was going on in every barrack. Over there was not barrack. Over there was building, 2-story buildings, was up and down. And it was 4 rooms or 5 rooms. The big room was about 60, 70 people in our room, 2 sections. He came up every Friday night after supper. No, it was before supper, before we got the bread. Every Friday night, and he made a selection. He didn't even look at the people. He made this, the way you are lucky. This was like, you call it today Russian roulette. This was the most horrible thing. Everybody was waiting for the Friday night. The second, not every Friday night, for the second Friday, every second Friday night to wait who is going to stay and who is going to go. This was so nerve-wracking. And I tell you another instance. In Auschwitz, I was working for E.J. Farben. It was a secret, we don't know. Everybody had worked for something else. I was working for an index machine. And also in Auschwitz, in those big factories, there were civilian, German civilian, like professionals, engineers or something. Once, I'm going to point out another German. I was working with a screwdriver, you know, to change a pattern or whatever, you know. Index machine makes every kind of stuff. Then I hit myself here, and the screwdriver went almost over here, and I was bleeding very badly. Then the cassette, that was responsible for this section, said, "Come on, I take you to infirmary, let them fix." And a civilian German was standing on the side, and I heard this, and he said that nobody should hear to the guy, "You better leave him here. If he goes there, he wouldn't come back anymore." So he told me what was responsible for this group that I was working, that the German person brought him a piece of linen. It was not over there to a piece of linen. And this also maybe saved his life. Also a German saved his life. So anyway, in Auschwitz was routinely, and matter of fact, that every second week they took another group of people, another like a barrack, 200, 300 people. We had to go to see a movie. We had to go to see a movie. And what kind of movies? I remember the movies. So to arouse people to, you know, not sexual, even sexual, but to arouse people with the food, with the lavish life and everything. Maybe they did it on purpose but we had to see it. In Auschwitz, I was there till January the 18th or the 16th. There was the liquidated because the Auschwitz, because the Russians were 3 days, 3 days away from Auschwitz. They liquidated the ghetto, and they took us, they called that, after this, they called this a dead march. We went from Auschwitz, I think was about 18,000 people. And also, next to our camp was a women's camp, also in Auschwitz. And they were also on the dead march. What was the dead march? There was in January in Poland, severe cold with snow. We didn't get no food. When we went out from Auschwitz, everybody got a loaf of bread, a whole loaf of bread. And we went from Auschwitz, the dead march was about 12, 14 days to walk from here to Gleiwitz, Gleiwitz. I think this was the border from Poland with Czechoslovakia. And they loaded us, first of all, the dead march was so cruel. The whole was thousands and thousands of people were marching. The KZ, concentration people. And the road on the side, on both sides, were littered with dead people. In other words, if somebody got tired, he couldn't work anymore. Was the end of the not the end, was you walk, and the side was went assessment, and whoever was sitting or whatever, they got shot in the back. This we saw it, thousands and thousands of people. I'll give you for instance, I'm not finished with it, but we went by 18,000 people, and our group was 1,700 people, but it took us to Maouthausen in the wagons. 3 people are alive after the war. I'm including those 3 people. But waren Guzens 5. And our section. Anyway, the march was so bad. The only thing what we ate on the march after the bread. How long you have a loaf of bread from 2 pounds or something. And we were 12, 13 or 11 days. The time we couldn't keep up with the time. So the only thing what we ate on the was snow. Just snow. In the night time we were outside, in Poland is not like here. You have a dirt road or a road with stones, old fashioned. In the side you have like deep, how do you call it, deep, the water should go through. It's like, in the night time we were sitting on both sides of the road, and so it went on for 10, 12, 14 days. Then we came to Gleiwitz 2. They said that from Auschwitz went out 18,000 people for the march, and the end of the road was maybe 2,000 people left. And in Gleiwitz, they took us on open wagons. Not with a roof like used to be, no, open. And this was in January, end of January. It was so cold in Poland. This was so cold, and we didn't get nothing. Then we came to Czechoslovakia. The train went through Czechoslovakia, and I think the city, but we were standing there a few hours, what was the name from the city? The name from the city was not Prague. Anyway, the people, the train was standing and was overpasses. Then the Czech people, they were so good, they threw us bread or sandwiches or whatever it is, and the German shoot at them. And despite this, they still threw to the wagon food, to the wagon food. And we went out from Czechoslovakia to Austria. During the ride, also I think was 6-7 days, an episode that I will never forget on the ride, where on the trains, was open trains, was cold, we didn't get no food whatsoever, period. And people cannot understand if a person doesn't eat for 4, 5, 6 days, nothing except snow, and he survives. Is it possible? It's not possible, but it's a fact. Anyway, in this column was also, there was French, Italian were there, and it was Russian, and also was Greeks. And one episode in our wagon was that the Greek people, they couldn't, because they used to eat, they didn't even know that they are Jewish before the war. And the German make them Jews and they send them out. It was in Saloniki, I think they were. So one episode was also will stay in my mind all my life. I can see the picture even now. When somebody died, not even died, it was warm. They opened the head and they ate the how do you call it, the inside, the brains. Warm, you can see it was warm like you can see like a smoke come out, or you call it differently, like steam. You can still see the steam was from this, and this was so horrible. And how people can stoop for their life to eat human brains. It's undescribable. It's I wouldn't do it. I would rather die not to do this, and I didn't do it in my life. So this was one of the most horrible things that I endured in this march, in this episode from Auschwitz to. After this, we came to Vienna. I remember exactly the train came to Vienna. It was standing quite a few hours, or a day or so, I don't remember exactly. And in Vienna, they took us, a special train took us to Maouthausen. It was Austria and Maouthausen. And to tell you, Maouthausen, what Maouthausen was Auschwitz, ghetto, in Zdunska-Vולה ghetto, Lodz ghetto, and Birkenau, and Auschwitz, they were babies, according to what happened in Maouthausen. How cruel, how vicious. First of all, they took out 60% from the people who came to Maouthausen. They took us out to make Entlausung. They put all the people in front in a big place, and it was a shower, how to call it, 5 or 10 people went in the shower. The episode I'm going to tell you is going to be very cruel, and the outcome is if somebody supposed to live, no matter what kind of circumstances, is alive, they stripped us from everything. It was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From everything from toe in the winter time in Vienna, and this is not far from Vienna, Maouthausen. Must have been 20, 30 below. They stripped everybody, and we were standing, thousands of people. And I was standing 27 hours, 28 hours, without a strip, without shoes, without anything, naked. And thousands of people were frozen to death. We standing one with another like this to warm up, to make the thing. This episode, after I got into the shower, and they sprayed me, they took out the hair, and another thing, and starting Maouthausen, their no, the hair were very short, but here in the middle we had a stripe shaved with a razor blade, not with a razor, no, used to be the old times, how do you call it, a knife, a shaving knife. So over there were Russian, not Russian, Ukraine people, and the Ukraine people, they were worse than the German. And they were also from concentration camp, but they were like murderers and thieves. We had red ones, and they had black ones upside down. This means a murderer. And we come, I will elaborate more later.
So the survivor Stanley Silverstein. This is February 6, 1996. We're in Coconut Creek, Florida, and this is tape number 4. Stanley, you were talking to us about how it was in Mauthausen.
Excuse me. And Mauthausen was, according what I was in Zdunska-Wולה ghetto, Lodz ghetto, Birkenau, Auschwitz, they were like a paradise, but I went through in Mauthausen and Zwickau. Imagine that. First of all, when we came to Mauthausen, they stripped us, and also they took away about 40 till 60% to the chimneys, to the ovens, to burn them. And they said even that burn people in Mauthausen alive, that they don't even bother to gas them or something. They burn them alive. And in Mauthausen was also a wall, a straight wall from stones, from a stone, a white granite wall they called it. And was steps made at the end of the wall. And everybody had to have 20, 30 kilo stone. And people, excuse me, and people what went through this wall was standing assessment, and mostly those assessment were from Lithuania, Litva. And those Lithuanian or Ukraine, they were worse than the German. And everybody make like this, they pushed them and fell down by 50, 100 meters. This was the dead wall, they called it. So, just in the episode, when we came to Mauthausen, they stripped us from everything, and they put us in rooms not bigger than this room, and we were sitting for days, one in the other, naked, for days. We were sitting till they lost us, and they sent us to Guzenswein. This took approximately about 5 to 8 days we were there in Mauthausen. And Guzenswein was about 3-4 kilometers, about 2.5 miles from, we went by foot, they didn't take us nothing. The episode about 27 hours when I was standing in the winter cold and I survived. I cannot tell you exactly, it was in Mauthausen, but most likely it was in Guzenswein when we came there. After we came in Guzenswein, they took us to the barracks, the difference in the barracks was normally we were sleeping 3 or 4 in the height. Over there was 5 in the height. You had maybe so much space when you had to roll in. And if somebody would turn to the left or to the right, he would feel the top from the place where you slept. So in Guzenzweig, the first few weeks, we didn't even get a piece of bread, but 4 or 5 weeks. And we just get once a day, we got a little green soup. They said it's made from peels from potatoes and some kind of stuff inside. I don't know what it was, some kind of fat. No meat, no, nothing. Tasted horrible, but we ate it. We didn't have any other chance. People even ate grass, anything what they can just to eat. Because for 5-6 weeks you don't see even a piece of bread. And every day in Guzenzweig, in Guzentu, was a selection, a different kind of selection. The selection was like this: every morning before we got up was an assessment with the capo, with the responsible for the room, went through, and they picked out 200 people. You. Most of the people were sleeping. They were sleeping in the beginning. I was sleeping in the beginning from the very beginning. They didn't take me. I was praying. I wish they would take me sooner than later, because this was so, and we knew what they're doing. They took 200 people from this, and they took them out with a blunt instrument. They got over the head, and they put the head in a barrel of water. And later on, you went out and you saw 200 people, no more and no less. And every day they brought in other people, other people to replace them. Anyway, the day started when it was dark. I cannot, the time I couldn't tell you exactly, but it was dark. We went to I don't remember, or we drove, or they took us with the train, or we walked. I know we walked every day to work. The work was stone. Stone means caves built in the Alps, in the Alps. So when we came to the entrance from those caves, we went on a little wagon, like they used to like the take sand or whatever, the small wagons. They packed us in and they brought us in. It was about 400 or 500 feet to take us in. And over there I was working I was making parts for Messerschmitt, for the airplanes, the Messerschmitt. Everybody had some other things to do. We were working over there from morning when it was dark till the night we came home was also dark. And later this went on for 4 or 5 weeks like this. We ate only one soup. We got one soup by work a day, one soup. Also we ate a little bit snow, whatever it is. Anyway, after 5 weeks or 6 weeks, were playing with us. They brought in, this was not the assessment, this was the capo, the Rush, the Ukrainians, and the other. They brought in a plate, it's not like a bowl with pieces of old bread. Imagine for 24 people to put them in the middle a dish with bread. The stronger was grabbing whoever. And they they had such a good time, the Russian, the Ukrainian, had such a good time. And everybody who was grabbing a piece of bread, he got over the head. Such a cruelty to do to people. And another thing, every week you had to go to the barber, not the barber wasn't in the same room. They were there. They were also those what I want to prescribe those people, the Ukraine. They were not the political prisoners. They had here a red triangle. The triangle started, the white one was on top and goes like this. And like the murderers, what they brought, a murderer, the Ukrainian, the murder, the robbers, whatever, they had black. They call it as a murderer. The point was on the top. And those were our capos and our everything. So every Sunday, or Monday, or Saturday, I don't remember exactly, you had to take a haircut, and they made in the middle a pass with a how do you call it? They used to do it with a knife.
Straight edge razor.
A straight, no, not a razor.
A barber.
No. Yeah, with a knife like this. And they did it especially to the Jews. Not the hair. They took out with the skin, and they said, they cursed it. Yivrei Yobanivrot. I cannot understand the curse, but they said it's a curse. You cannot explain it. But this was I like to say the menu about from the Ukraine to the Jews. So this went on till the beginning of May. We were working, and the assessment with the Lithuanian were guarding us. Imagine in Guzenswai where between 18 and 20,000 people came from Auschwitz. It was liberated less than 2,000 people. Less than 2,000 people. From our group, from our block, what we went, I think it was 1,700 people or 1,600 people. 3 people were alive by the end of the war. It's horrible. So, anyway, when by the end of the war, we didn't even hear from far away the guns or something. Then the SS people start to run away, and they brought in the Wiener Polizei from Vienna. We were not far from Vienna, and they gave them orders to take all the KZ people to caves in the mountain. This was not the caves down in where we were, but this was caves, empty caves, big caves in the mountain. And they gave them orders to seal it and to leave them there. Nobody should know about it. And according to what I heard, this is just what the Americans after the war told us that the Wiener chief police with the Wiener Polizei did not obey the order, and after the assessment left, they brought us back down. After the third day, we were over there 2 or 3 days in the case. But food and drink, everything, they forget about it. He brought us down back to the Lager Gusensweil. And the next day, the American people, the American army liberated us. And the people told the story to the American people what happened, because the Wiener chief was there. And he was a hero, so to say. He got treated, and the American people, the American army took him away with the police, and they treated him, and everything, and everybody was this. And we didn't know what to do after the war, you know, nothing. No. We went with the railroad pass. We went to the nearest town. The name was Linz. And in Linz, they took us in some kind of DP camp next to the American camp. Imagine in those days, we were standing on the side after the American ended eating, they throw away the leftovers. We picked them up. We ate. So bad was it. After the war already. Till I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then the command came from the U.S. Army that they have to liberate, they have to give back Linz to the Russian. And they said, whoever wants to be by the Russian, you can be, but you'd be better off to come with us. And we went south about 20 kilometers. It took us 20 kilometers, and they built, was over there a camp, Auhof. This was a German camp, German soldiers. Was no soldiers that they gave us the camp, Auhof. And over there was already different. Over there we got the joint distribution brought us food and clothing. And matter of fact, I was responsible for distributing the clothing. And I imagine how dumb I am till today, how naive, I wouldn't say dumb, that I gave away everything. If somebody gives somebody shoes like this, he takes himself the best shoes. I was left with the lousy shoes, or something like this. Anyway, they gave us food, and I was how to say, a meltzer, not a meltzer, I was responsible to distributing like a Metro D, called it. I was responsible that everybody get the portion to eat from the kitchen. I distributed. So we got food already, and we got clothing. And after a few, not even a few months, it was May, in June came the Bricha, the people from, the soldiers from Israel, and whoever wants to go, they took us to Italy. June or July, I think it was July, they took us to Italy. In Italy, we were, the first station was in Bologna, Italy. And we got a camp over there, and they said their first speech in this place Mussolini gave the first speech in this place where we were on this balcony. They showed that. It was very, very, this. From over there, we were there about 3-4 weeks, and from there, from this time, they took us to very south Italy. The name was, after Bari, the name was called Santa Maria de Bani. It's like a kibbutz, went by 150 people together. It was collective, we ate together, we got food from the joint or from the government, not, but we got soups. We had our own kitchen with our own everything organized, and over there I was the responsible for distributing the food to the people and the clothing. And over there in South Italy, I was till March, I think February or March 1946. And I had a brother in Israel. And I didn't know exactly the address, and I wrote that the name is this and this, the address. It was a special something. And they looked him up and they gave him the letter. And he wrote me back that my sister is alive in Kiel, Germany. Anyway, in March, I took off by foot, illegal. As a matter of fact, somebody helped me to get illegal documents that I could travel by train. And from there I went to Roma. In Roma I was about 3 weeks to find somebody. There was people that went back and forth to find somebody that I could go with them to Germany. So after 3 weeks in Rome, we went with the train to Verona. This was North Italy. In North Italy, in Verona, we had to go down because after Verona they didn't allow nobody from the DPs or something to travel. It was about 30-40 kilometers from the border. But the border was, let's see, it was the Bremer Pass was the border. But we went from Verona by foot through the Alps, over 3,000 meters. We looked up there, we saw down there, this took us about 2 weeks to walk. We went from there, and we also had a little food, but it was different already. And we went, to tell you a little instance, we were 4 people. We walked. Once happens that we split, I don't know. One had the cigarette and the other one had the matches. You understand? That we couldn't smoke the cigarettes, and we couldn't have the light. So we went by foot from Montecucco. This was the last station, this was the last border. But from Verona, we went also to Montecucco by foot. But this was not the mountain, this was just roads. Montecucco, we started up to the mountain. Took us about 8 or 10 days to come to Innsbruck. And when we came to Innsbruck by sight, we waited before we waited on the railroad station, then a patrol, from Österreich, a patrol came and they asked from where are you coming? So we were thinking very, very rapidly. Then we said, we want to go to Italy. You know, the psychology, if we want to go to Italy, he said, you cannot go to Italy, you have to go back to Innsbruck. They took us to the railroad station in Innsbruck, and over there we found the other 2 guys. in Innsbruck. So from Innsbruck, we went with the train also till almost by the German border, but they couldn't let us in. So we had to go by the German Alps till by München. The town was Waldheim, I think. Also over well, it took us also 6-7 days to go through the mountain. And after this, when we came to Munich, then I took a train, also illegal, till Kiel. This is by the North Sea, by Denmark. And over there I saw my sister for the first time in Kiel. She was there liberated. She was in Stutthof. And Stutthof is not far from Kiel, Lübeck. So she was living there, was 18 Jewish people living there. And my sister had a burned leg because they wanted to put the ship afire. And by her happened almost the same thing. The SS wanted to burn the ship. Then the civil fire department came to rescue, and they rescued them to another ship. I account of this, they are alive now. She's alive now. So this was after the war, and when I came to Germany, I stayed with her quite a few months, and later on I heard that in the neighborly city, the name is Neustadt in Schleswig-Holstein, that is, over there is an Ort, O-R-T, organization, whatever, and teaching but whoever wants to teach something. I took equivalent I was learning there almost 3 years. 3 years. I took the equivalent to a high school. I didn't get a diploma because I didn't finish it. I went there. But I learned a little German. It was mostly Polish or Yiddish. It was instructors that were mostly from Israel. And they instructed us, if somebody wanted to learn a profession, like to be an electrician or a carpenter or what, they could learn there also. And I took the high school diploma, but I wasn't a businessman. I didn't know how to make money, how to smuggle or whatever. Then they asked us, whoever wants to go to Israel. Then in 1949, in May, they took us to Marseille. From there, they put us on a ship, and we came to Israel in 1949. In Israel, I had a brother, he tried to help me, and I learned to be a weaver, on textile machines, a weaver. I worked almost a year. Then I went to the army, the Israeli army, and I was in the Israeli army for 3 years. I graduated a tank sergeant, like a sergeant responsible for the tank. I had under me 5 people. And in 1952, I was dismissed, not dismissed. My time went up, and I got out from the army, and I went back to the textile working. But living quarter I didn't have. Those 2 years I was in the army, I left in the army. The first year when I came to Israel from 1949 till 1950, till I went to the army. I was living by my brother, and my brother was also, he had 1.5 rooms with 2 kids. And I went to the army. After the army, I went back to my brother for a few months, and I will continue like